yarnivores and spiderettes. Fiber Spider back again with another tutorial just for you. And today I'm going to show you how you can make this lovely Pi-brid shawl. That's P-I-brid shawl. It's a hybrid of crocheting and knitting so that you too can create a pie shawl that originally was designed by Elizabeth Zimmerman, but it was all done in knitting. Now what I did was I created a way of incorporating crocheting with knitting to make it a whole lot easier so that you don't have to work with double-pointed needles or using the magic loop method. And I wanted to show you some of my works here. Now this is an organic lace technique that I've worked on. And this was my first example. And so this was in, let me see, it was Mandala Tweed Stripes. I forget the name of the colorway, but bear with me. I'm going to show you what that looks like in the back. The color is a little bit busy for the lace work, but I absolutely love it. So this was my first example. And then my next example, same yarn, different colorway. This is, if I remember correctly, this is White Elephant. So let's wrap this one. And as far as the yardage goes, it took less than 2 skeins of the yarn. And I love the drapiness, the flow. Absolutely love it. And all of the lace work is my own designing and patterning. Absolutely love it. And last but not least, I have one more that I wanted to show you. My third and final. This was done in the Woolies, I think it's the Woolies DK Cake by Lion Brand. And this was in the colorway of Bedazzled, if I am not mistaken. So I wanted to show you this one too real quick, and then we will get into the tutorial. And it is more of a formulaic pattern than an actual pattern. It's more of a formula, but I'm going to walk you through it, and I hope you guys like it. So this is my third one. And the colorway of this is a little less busy, so the more complex knit lace works a little bit better, I think. And so, without further ado, let's get started. All right. Hello again, my little yarnivores and spiderettes. Fiber Spider back again with another tutorial just for you. And today I am going to show you how you can create what I call a Pi-brid shawl. That's Pi-brid shawl. Now, the way that I came about this was from the original idea from Elizabeth Zimmerman, an absolute genius when it came to knitting. And she created a shawl called the Pi shawl. That's 3.14 ... And it was a way of creating a circular shawl that would grow exponentially as you kept proceeding on. And it's a great idea. I love it, except for one thing, which always was my stumbling block. And that was when when knitting from the center with a very small circumference, it was very difficult for me to work with double-pointed needles or even using the magic loop method with a long cabled circular needle because I always ended up with laddering, which is the bane of my existence. So I came up with an idea to start by crocheting and then swap over to knitting. So it is a hybrid of the two methods to create what I call the Pi-brid shawl. Yes. So for today's example, I'm going to be starting off using a size, well, it's a 9mm hook, okay? And the reason why is because I'm also going to be using 9mm knitting needles. Yes, you can use, of course, whatever works for you. I can't stress that enough. But I really like the idea of it being very light and very lacy because it is a lot of fabric. Okay, so I'm also going to be using Lion Brand's Ice Cream Big Scoop in the colorway of Mochi. Yes, and it is a lightweight of 3, and the recommended hook size is an H or a 5mm. I'm bumping that up. And as far as knitting needles, size 5. Yeah, I'm bumping that up. And so, that being said, it is going to be very light, very lacy, and I'm going to show you how you can go about doing it. Now, this is not going to be a tutorial showing absolutely the whole process because they get big. It is a very big project, but it's a lot of fun. And I'm going to show you how you can make one yourself based on the original formula with my alterations. Alrighty, so without further ado, let's get started. One more point of note before we get started is that you are going to need different lengths of circular knitting needles. Yes, and me personally, I have a set of interchangeable knitting needles. By the way, these are Takumi's. They are a Clover brand, and this worked out just fine for me. Now, as far as the cable length, what also worked out for me was a cord length of 24 inches, a cord length of 36 inches, and 48 inches. Actually, it's the cord plus the length of the needles is what makes up the 24, 36, and 48 inches. In fact, on a previous example that I had done, I even went so far as to use 60-inch circular knitting needles. Yes, I did. That wasn't entirely necessary, but it was nice to spread out the stitches because there's quite a few of them after a while. Couple hundred. So if you don't mind your stitches being all squinched up on the needles, you can get by, but it does make it a lot easier if you have different cable lengths. I would be remiss in my duties to you if I didn't stress that, you are going to need different lengths of cables. Otherwise, you're going to run into an issue. And the whole idea behind this project is to, well, not have the issues that I was having initially. So now let's get started. Okay. Alrighty, round 1. First things first. All right, so we are starting off with our crocheting. And like I said, as far as hook size and needles, needle size, well, it really is subjective, but you want them to be the same ultimately. So we're going to start off with our obligatory slip knot. And I know this hook size seems absolutely ridiculous with the thinness of the yarn, but it'll make sense. Trust me. So we're going to start by chaining 1, 2, and 3. Now, the chaining up of 2 that we have here is going to add height, but it's not going to count as a stitch. We are going to do 12 double crochets into that first chain. The first chain is going to act as our magic ring, if you will. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Let me scooch this closed a little bit. It gets a little unruly. I think I was up to 8. 9, 10, 11, and 12. Okay, and you know me, I like to double count. Better to count twice and deal with it once. So I think the original expression is measure twice, cut once. So 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, and 12. All right, and again, this chaining up of 2, that's just to give us some height. All right, so now to finish up round 1, going to do a slip stitch into the top of that first double crochet that we did. Like so. And then, of course, yes, you can cinch up the middle and sew in the end later. All right, so that is round 1. Round 2. All right, round 2. Very simple. Start by chaining up 2. And then again, that chain 2 does not count as an actual double crochet or anything else. It's just to give us height. So into each of our stitches, we are going to do 2 double crochets into each stitch, giving us a total of 24. And the count is very, very, very important for this project to work. So we've got 2, and then 2 double crochets into the next stitch, and so on and so forth. Because the reason why I say that the count is very important is because it's all about the numbers and how the numbers keep exponentially growing later on in our project. So all I'm going to do is just keep doing 2 double crochets into each stitch all the way around. And then when I get back to the beginning, going to do a slip stitch into this first double crochet, giving us a total of 24 double crochets all the way around. Meet back up with you for round 3. Round 3, we're going to be continuing on in the usual manner of increasing. So we're going to start by, again, chaining up 2. And again, that is to give us height, but not an actual stitch. And we're going to proceed by doing 2 double crochets into the first stitch and then 1 into the next all the way around. So it's going to be 2 and then 1. So 1 and then 2 in the same one, and then 1 double crochet into the next stitch. So it's an increment of 3. And then 2 in the next. 1. 2. And then 1 in the next. 2 in the next. And then 1 in the next. So it's 1, 2, and then 3. 1, 2, and then 3. Like so. And so you're going to keep on doing the same thing, having 2 in the one stitch, and then 1 in the next, all the way around. And when you get to the beginning, do a slip stitch into that first double crochet right here, and you will end up with a total number of stitches at 36 stitches all the way around. And I will meet back up with you for round 4. Alrighty. Round 4. In fact, this is the last round in which we are going to be crocheting, believe it or not. All right, so from here, we are going to start by, again, chaining up 2. And last round, it was an increment of 3, because it was 1, 2, 3. This round, it's going to be 4. 2 double crochets into the first stitch. So that's 1 and 2. And then stitches 3 and 4 are going to be regular, normal, run-of-the-mill double crochets, 1 in each stitch. So that's 3 and 4. See, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4. And then we do it again and again and again. So 1, and then 2 is into the same stitch. And then 3 and 4 are in the next 2 stitches. Like so. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1 and 2 goes into the same stitch. And then 3 and 4 go into the 2 next stitches, respectively. And there you go. All right, so keep doing this fashion of 2 into the first stitch, 3 and 4 into the next 2 stitches, all the way around. And again, when you reach the beginning, do a slip stitch into the first double crochet right here to create a total of 48 double crochets all the way around, and then we can proceed with our knitting needles. Yes, indeedy do. All right, see you in a bit. All right, round 5. Now, this is where we introduce our knitting needles. And yes, they do need to be circular knitting needles because flats just won't cut it. You know, straights, they won't work for this. You know, we're working in the round here. So that being said, I am currently using my 24-inch length circulars. And again, these are size 13s, 9mm. But of course, you can use what works for you. So we are swapping off here. All right, so right now what we need to do is we need to pick up the stitches all the way around. And to do that, what we're going to do is we're going to insert our needle. I mean, we already have, after we did our slip stitch, we have that one loop on there already. And now what we need to do is we need to go into the next stitch underneath both loops of the V there, and we're going to trap the yarn like so and bring it through the stitch. Now, it does take some practice, and it's easier to do off camera than on, believe you me. But yes, trap the stitch and pull it up. Now, the reason why we want to do it this way, okay, is because it makes it easier to knit into the stitch later. Because if we sort of take the easier way out and wrapping it around like this, and then pulling it through, if you can see, the stitch is twisted in the opposite way. So it does not quite work out as well. So that being said, because we want it to be angled like this, not the other way. So there is a method behind the madness. So we're basically grabbing it from behind and then pulling it through. And again, yes, it does take a little bit of practice, but we're only doing 48 of them, so it's not that bad. And you don't want them to be too tight either. Otherwise, it's going to be very, very difficult to knit into those stitches later. So you want to go a little bit on the loose side, give it some slack. And you're just going to go all the way around, picking up your stitches, being sure to go underneath both loops of the V, and just go all the way around, picking up your stitches. And sort of scooch them down your needle as you go. All right, so I'm going to scooch my way all the way around, and I'm going to meet up back with you when I reach the beginning. Alrighty. Alrighty, round 6. Okay, now I just wanted to show you real quick. This is what you should have. All of your 48 stitches cast on to your knitting needles, and it looks fabulous. All right, so now what we're going to want to do is just sort of establish the fact that, yes, we went from crocheting the stitches to now knitting the stitches. So for this round, you're going to get off easy. We're just going to be knitting one stitch for every stitch. No big deal. Now, somewhere around here, I have a marker. Which went where exactly? Ah, there it is. A stitch marker. Yes. Couldn't seem to find it. Sorry about that. So what you're going to want to do is slip that marker onto your right needle. And all we're going to do, aside from tilting our camera up a little bit to make this a little bit easier for me, pardon the technical difficulties here, but all we're going to do, really, is to just knit one stitch for every stitch all the way around. And that will be the entirety of round 6. Now, the first stitch is a little bit of a tricky little monster because it's the first one that we did from the crochet round. But yeah, just stitch one knit stitch into each stitch all the way around. It's that easy. Now the next round is going to, well, it's not going to be a doozy, but it's really where things are going to change, and really where the whole essence of the pie shawl is going to come into play. But for right now, we're just establishing the difference between where we had the crochet stitches and now the knit stitches. So for round 6, just work your way around until you reach, of course, the last stitch, and slip your marker onto your right needle, and we shall continue on to the next round, which, oddly enough, will not be round 7. Nope, not according to the original format. It'll be round 24. This will make sense as we go on, trust me. No, there's nothing wrong with my counter or your TV set. Yes, we are on round 24. Now, the reason why we're on round 24 is because if we had done the pattern as it was originally created by doing just knit stitches in order to get this current count of stitches, 48 stitches, well, we would have had to do 23 previous rounds. However, since we sort of took, well, a bit of a hybrid Pi-brid shortcut, thanks to the crocheting, we are now right where we need to be, and we are on round 24. So what we need to do now is we need to actually double all of the stitches that we currently have on our needle. And yes, it does sound peculiar, but if you double all the stitches and then you knit X number of rounds, and then you double all the stitches again and then knit X number of rounds, it actually works. And, I mean, I've done 3 of these now, and it amazes me even, but it works and I love it. So what we're going to do to increase all the stitches. Now, there are a couple of different ways that you can do this. To keep it light and airy and lacy, I like the yarn over technique. However, what you could quite conceivably do is into every stitch, do a knit front and back stitch, or a KFB stitch. And you could do that, but then it would be solid, and I want this to be a lacy piece now, don't I? So what we're going to do is, again, keeping that marker on our right needle, just knit the first stitch, and then yarn over, so around the back to the front, and that's going to create an eyelet. So after doing a knit stitch, you do a yarn over, then another knit stitch, and then yarn over, and knit, and yarn over, and knit, and yarn over, and knit, all the way around. So we are at the end of it going to have twice as many, I can't speak, it's late, twice as many stitches on our needle as we first started with. All right. So when you get all the way around, be sure to knit this stitch and then also have a yarn over. Then pass your marker to the right needle. Okay, so I will meet back up with you when I'm done with round 24, and I will see you in a bit. Round 25. All right, so as I stated previously, it is necessary, be sure to have that last yarn over wrap before your slip marker there, okay? So now for round 25, all we're going to do is just knit every stitch and every yarn over as if it were a stitch all the way around. I'm going to do a couple for you. So again, being careful about our yarn over here. We don't want to lose that. And we're just going to go into each stitch all the way around with a knit stitch. And the yarn overs, like I said, are going to count as stitches. And it's going to give us a ring of lacy goodness for our shawl. And I'm just going to do a couple more of these. And show you what I mean. So as you can see, we're going to have some really nice looking eyelets all the way around our Pi-brid shawl. And so this is going to, basically, this round is going to set us up for the first segment, the first knitted segment, that is, of our Pi-brid shawl. The first segment was, of course, crocheted, but the knitted segment, well, you have options. In fact, you have a plethora of options open to you for being creative and utilizing various knit stitches. The thing is that they need to be divisible by 12 or by 24, or by 36, or by 48, or, by 6, or by 3, or by 4. It needs to be divisible, okay? It's like when you have a multiple of stitches. Well, our last round was 48, right? And we started off with 12 stitches, right? Well, if we do a stitch pattern that is divisible by 12, it'll work. Or divisible by 36, or, so on and so forth. Now, if you take the total number of stitches, and if you divide it by that number evenly, with no decimal points, it will work. And I've done a bunch of different ideas where it was a stitch pattern that was divisible by 12, and it worked out beautifully. And I'm going to show you actually on graph paper what it is that you can accomplish. But for right now, it's just a matter of me getting through this round of knit stitches. But I just wanted to exemplify how it creates this really neat lacy eyelet ring around your piece. All right, so I'm going to knit my way all the way around, and that will be round 25. Now, what we're going to be doing is we're not going to be increasing any stitches until round 48 from this round 25. We're not going to be doing any increasing. It's just going to be knitting stitch per stitch or adding eyelets. But of course, if you add an eyelet, you also need to add a corresponding decrease. And that is one of the reasons why I've been doing so much work on the Mystery Lace Knit Along, to get some of you more familiar and more confident with creating lace work. And I'm going to put links in the description box down below as far as my Knitting Lace 101. But also I'm going to show you with graph paper what you can do with the parameters that we have on hand. So I'm going to knit the rest of this round, and then I'm going to show you what I'm talking about. All right. Hello again. All right, so you guys are always asking for written patterns. Well, this is essentially the rest of the piece in written form. Now, I'm going to explain it, not to worry. And yes, my handwriting is a cross between Sanskrit and chicken scratch, I know, but I'm going to walk you through it. So we just did round 25. Well, rounds 25 through rounds 47, we're working even. We're not increasing, we're not decreasing. Every stitch needs a corresponding stitch. If you are adding eyelets, well, then yes, like I said before, you need to add a corresponding decrease, and I will explain that. And right now, we have a total of 96 stitches for this segment of rounds 25 through rounds 47. So it's a total of 96 stitches. Now, I went ahead, yes I did, and I decided that I would find out the numbers that are divisible by, well, 96 is divisible by 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, 8, 12, 16, 24, 32, 48, and of course 96. Now, that being said, if you find a lacy knit pattern that is divisible, it's a multiple of 12 or it's a multiple of 16, well, that will fit into the total stitch count for the circumference of this segment. So if you have a lace pattern that is a repeat of 12 stitches, it'll work. Personally, I find it to be a bit more gratifying and a bit more fun if you create it yourself. So here you go. This is actually a diagram of what I did for one of my shawls. And so I did a graph, and so I wanted it to be a repeat of 12 stitches. So I have, and you're going from right to left as you knit. So the numbers are corresponding. So it's a multiple of 12. Now, the reason why it goes 26 through 46 is because that first round that we just did, round 25, this one right here, it sort of stabilizes the round after we just did that increase. So rounds 26 through 46 are going to be the rounds in which you add your lace patterning, okay? The odd numbers, those rounds you just knit. You don't add any eyelets or increases or decreases. Basically, it's even and odd rounds. The even rounds, it's when you do the actual patterning. The odd rounds, it's when you just knit around as normal and it stabilizes the work, if you will. Gives it a bit more cohesiveness, okay? So, that being said, what I did was I marked out my numbers, and again, so that goes to 46. 47, round 47 would be just a regular knit round, because then on round 48, that is when we do another increase round, where you would knit one, yarn over, knit one, yarn over, knit one, yarn over, etc., etc., etc. And we would be going from 96 stitches to 192 stitches. Yes. And then at that point, what you would then want to do at that point is after you increase your stitches on the following round, round 49, I would suggest, this is personal preference, what I would suggest is for round 49, when you're doing a regular knit round, to also transfer your stitches to a 36-inch cable. Okay, that way you have more room to breathe. Yes, but getting back to what I was talking about here, as far as plotting out what you want to do, well, I'm going to show you. Okay, now this is, of course, very rudimentary and very basic. There are a lot more symbols out there. Some of them have different meanings than what I currently have here, but this is what I personally do, okay? And personally, I find it works out rather well. Now, I also wrote up a little key here, okay? So if it's just a regular empty white box, it is a knit stitch. Okay, so for every one of these blank boxes where nothing's going on, just a knit stitch. Now, if it is a diagonal going from the bottom left to the top right, like these, you would knit 2 stitches together. So, for instance, on row 32, you would knit 2 stitches, then you would knit 2 together. Now, what's that circle? The circle is a yarn over. So you would knit 2 stitches, knit 2 together, and then yarn over. Then you would knit 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 stitches. Then you would yarn over. And then we have another symbol going from the bottom right to the top left. Well, that is either a slip slip knit or an SKP, which is what I personally prefer, which is slip 1, then knit 1, and then you pass the slip stitch over the knit stitch. Now, as far as these various ways of creating lace work, I do go over this in my Knitting Lace 101 little series that I did. And yes, the link to that will be in the description box down below. Now, also over here, we have the S2KP. Now, the reason why I have that here is to show you if you have 2 eyelets, Granted, I have two eyelets right next to each other here, but if you have two eyelets and you want to do a central decrease right in the middle, then you can slip two knitwise, two at the same time knitwise. Then you knit the next stitch, and then you pass the slip stitches over that knit stitch. But of course, you have a yarn over first. So it'd be you're yarning over, then slipping two stitches knitwise, then knitting a stitch, and then passing the slip stitches over the knit stitch, and then you're yarning over again. Now, yes, I know it looks very complicated on paper, but that is why I also have it in my Mystery Lace Knit Along, and I also have it, in my Knitting 101, my Lace Knitting 101 stitch series. So this is to give you an idea as to how you can graph out what it is that you want to do. For a simple diamond, well, yes, it is perfectly possible. Yes, it is. So also, to give you an example, I'm going to show you it in the flesh, so to speak. So I'm going to grab out my little pattern and show you. All right, so this is what I actually did knit based on the graph that I showed just before. Now, right down here is where we have our crocheted stitches, and then we did, the one round of, picking up stitches, and then a series of knit stitches, and then I got right into the pattern, and this is the result. Now you can see up here, right here, is where I did the double decrease, and then there's one little stitch on top, and then it goes directly back into the increase eyelet round, okay? And then it proceeds to doing yet another segment, which I will get into. But I just wanted to show you that, yes, it is possible to create from graph paper something tangible. All right, so going to continue on with the pattern, and we will proceed from there. Okay, so basically we covered rounds 25 through 47, where you're just working consistently with 96 stitches. And then with round 48, yes, you would go about increasing by doing a knit one, yarn over, knit one, yarn over, knit one, yarn over, etc. And that would give you a total of 192 stitches. And yes, it would be advisable at that point to transfer over to your 36-inch cord circular needles. Then, after doing that, you would then work rounds 49 through 95 evenly, just like we did up here. Now, for this one, I also graphed that out as well to show you, again, what the possibilities are. Also, before I do that, I just wanted to show you that if you wanted to, for the 96 stitches that we had there, again, going from rounds 26 through 46, well, what if you had a pattern that was a multiple of 24, or 12, or 8, or 6 even? There are possibilities that you can fiddle and finagle with just with a little bit of graph paper and some patience. You can create something, with different dimensions and a different repeat count as well. So going to the next segment, as I said, it is 192 stitches. Well, okay, I need to, there we go. All right, so 192 is, of course, divisible by 192. 96, 64, 48, 32, 24, 16, 12, 8, 6, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Yes. And so then in that case, because we are working rounds 49 through 95, if you were to graph it out, it would be rounds 50 through 94. Now, the reason why I do that is because 49 and 95, it's to stabilize the pattern. 49 and 95, those 2 rounds, no increases, no decreases, no eyelets, yarnovers, nothing. No, just work it even. Okay. But the even rounds, so it's 52, 54, 56, etc., etc. So it's 50 through 94 is the playing field. Now, if you want it to be, a nice square format, you could do a multiple of 24. And then again, you can graph it out the same way, just as I did before. Again, using yarn overs and decreases like the knit two together, or the slip knit pass, or the double decrease. You can really play around with pattern ideas, believe you me. And you can even Google, I need a knit pattern with a multiple of X number of stitches for X number of rows. Well, you could find something, but I think it's more fun to try to create something yourself. I do. Now, so what you would do is, again, you would do these rounds. So it would be rounds 49 through 95. You would work evenly. On the odd rounds, you would just knit the stitches. On the even rounds, those would be the rounds in which you would do your lace work. Now, from there, when you reach round 96, you would increase once again, and you would do the knit one, yarn over, knit one, yarn over, and you would double your stitches once again to 384 stitches. Yeah, it's a lot, but we're not going to increase anymore, trust me. But yes, you would be increased up to 384 stitches, and at that point, after you increase, when you are transferring your stitches onto your 48-inch cable, it would be round 97, and you're just going to knit 1 stitch per stitch, and so you would transfer your stitches over to that cable. Then round 98 and up, this is personal preference, mind you. This is what I have done for the past 3 Pi-brid shawls that I've made. What I like to do for approximately the next 10 to 15 rounds or so, give or take, what I do is a knit 1, purl 1, knit 1, purl 1, knit 1, purl 1, a ribbing. And the reason why I like to do that is because I feel that it frames the work, and also gives it a little bit of texture, especially because that edge creates sort of a border. It adds sort of like a collar. It finishes up the piece. I rather like it. And then after you are done doing your ribbing, I have chosen the Stretchy Bind Off, which again, I do have a video tutorial on that as well. Now, again, to show you what I'm talking about, I have here, this is the edge. And personally, I think that the 1x1 ribbing really makes it a little bit of polish. It's not one of those schmancy fancy edges with the scallops and the doodads. No, but I think it makes it look rather nice. And then, of course, the Stretchy Bind Off, yeah, it's got some good stretch to it. And the last thing that you want is to do at this point, in my opinion, is to do a regular bind off, because it is stiff and it won't have the same drape and the same flow. One thing that you do want, I think, for this particular project is to have a nice flow going on. That's just me. So as you can see here, this eyelet row right here, that was round 96. And then, yeah, I just did my 1x1 ribbing of knits and purls and knits and purls all the way around for approximately, 10 or so rounds. And then, yeah, you do the bind off. Yeah. So that's really the basis of the Pi-brid shawl in a nutshell. Yeah. I mean, it starts off, I believe relatively easy as far as the crocheting aspect. And then it's just a matter of increasing every so often and then figuring out what it is that you want to do in the way of lace work. Now, from personal experience, this is just my personal opinions, etc., etc. If you are going to be using a rather busy yarn as far as the colorway or the texture, I would keep lace work to a minimum. Now, the first piece that I had tried, I used a really busy yarn. It was the Mandua Tweed Stripes, and I love the yarn. And I was using an organic, free-form lace work, and unfortunately, you really didn't get to see terribly much of it because the yarn coloration was so busy. Then the next one that I did, again, it was the same kind of yarn, but the lace work was much more confined to just sort of spiraling swirls. And that one I feel worked out better because the lace work wasn't hidden by the colorway. And then the last one that I did, which was this one, I think worked out the best personally as far as utilizing a simple but intricate um, bit of lace work, but because it was ultimately a solid color, it wasn't tweed. I love the tweed, but for doing complex lace work, it hides the lace work. So this, obviously, you can see you have diamonds. There's no doubt about it. I would suggest if you're going to do a complicated bit of lace work, I would suggest using a solid color or a colorway, akin to this one, but where it's a very busy, variegated yarn. I would say make it more of a solid piece or make it a very simplistic lace work. Okay, so that being said, I really hope that you enjoyed this tutorial, and I hope that you have found it helpful, informative, perhaps even a little entertaining. I don't know, but the whole idea about me doing this in the first place was I wanted the pie shawl to be more accessible if you have hang-ups with using double-pointed needles or the magic loop method with knitting as much as I do. I wanted it to be a more accessible means for anybody to be able to do the same project with much success and rejoicing. Yes. And after completing 3 of them, I'm confident that I will be able to make more of them and experiment with more lace work patterns, and it's a lot of fun, and I hope you like it. So, with that being said, in the description box down below, I am going to put links, yes, I am, to the Lace Knitting 101, to the Mystery Lace Knit Along, which, if you haven't seen it before, I would say, yeah, check it out, give it a whirl. Because if you want to do an organic lace piece, it's a great exercise to get used to the mechanics of how eyelets and decreases work together. And it's a lot of fun, and I would totally recommend it. So, yes, I'm going to have links to the Lace Knitting 101, the Mystery Lace Knit Along, also to the Stretchy Bind Off. Yes, I am. And yeah, that pretty much covers everything. And I hope you liked it. And of course, if you did, give a little thumbs up button down below. You know I appreciate your appreciation as always. And let me know if this is something that appeals to you, because I think it's so much fun and it's so worthwhile. And of course, also stay tuned because I do try to post often, whether it's knitting or crocheting or a combination of the two, or of course also my YouTube channel, Fiber Spider Games, where I do video game playthrough and commentary. Would love to see you there too. Been having a lot of fun lately. And until next time, I want all of you to stay inspired, stay stitching, stay caffeinated, and above all right now, stay safe. I love you guys, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye for now.